Can you hear me now? All right, I sound like a cell phone salesperson. So thank you again. It's glad to be back on campus. I am an alum of the Haas School at Berkeley, so I know the campus fairly well, although this is a great new building that you all have, so thank you for inviting me. We're going to spend the next hour or so talking about innovation and innovation at Google, and I'm going to give you my personal opinions about how we innovate at Google, and we'll have lots of interaction and questions and comments from all of you, I hope. Otherwise, it'll be a very boring afternoon, so don't be shy. I'm going to do a couple of just quick introductions about myself, what I do at Google, so you have a perspective on my biases, because I think every time you listen to a speaker, you have to be conscious of what their biases are, so you can apply your own filter and sort of de-bias their comments. So I think it's very important to do that. So I'll do that in a minute. And then I have about 15, 20 slides that I'm going to go through very, very quickly. These are not slides with lots of words on them. These are mostly pictures, and really the intent is to provoke some thoughts and discussion, and then we should have a debate. Before I do any of that, I just have a couple of questions for you guys, so I have a sense of who's in the audience today. So if you don't mind, just raise your hands. How many of the people here are from engineering school? Okay. How many from the business school? All right. Is there a third school that's represented here? Which one is that?
Public policy.
Public policy.
Chemistry.
Chemistry.
School of Information.
School of Information. Great. Okay, so we have a very good cross-section. That should be fun discussion. One other question. What are some of the top-of-mind questions or topics you want me to address today, whether it's about Google or innovation in Silicon Valley in general? Just throw out some things so that I make sure that I don't go off track in my comments. Yes?
So from last week, I read an article in The Economist about the Google waiver and the way this innovation has been created, and I think it was particularly special because they initiated the project in Sydney. Is that correct?
So Google Wave. Okay, so you have a question about Google Wave, so I'll talk about that, okay? Yes.
The business models, the current and innovating business models.
Okay, business model for the company, yes.
Yeah, I was wondering how Google copes with ambidexterity in terms of assertiveness and competitiveness.
Ambidexterity, so help me understand how you mean in that context. So because the way I understand it is I should be able to do right and left hand, so what do you mean in the Google context?
Yeah, in the one hand, it is important to keep innovating and be explorative, and
Yeah.
that is what you guys do a lot. But it's also a good thing to align your products and
Yeah.
and to exploit it. So you have
So make money, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Yep. Let me just write these things down so I don't forget.
Business models number 2.
Yep, thank you. Okay, anything else? Yes?
Where you set the boundary on openness.
Set the boundary on openness, that's a good one. Okay. Okay, that's a pretty good, yes, on the back.
Google and sustainable innovation, how do you collaborate?
Okay, sustainable innovation. Okay, so when you say sustainable innovation, what does that mean to you?
Well, screen business innovation, how do you do sustainable, economically, ecologically sustainable?
Okay, yep. Okay, anything else? Yes?
So how do you differentiate? Because I heard Google has been investing in some solar companies. I was just curious what say to this main great.
Okay, so why you've heard we are investing in solar companies, so why are we doing that? I actually may not have an answer for that, but let's come to that. Okay, so that's a pretty good list. So, yes, one more. Okay, then we'll close it off. Good, this is good. You guys are engaged.
How do you have improved in innovation in late years, recent years? How do you have developed your innovation system?
How have you improved? Okay, so not just sort of setting the course, but how you improve it continuously. Okay. All right, so I'll do my best to cover these topics. If I don't, please call me out, and we'll do those things. Okay? All right, so just quick background on myself. I've been at Google for 6.5 years. I'm a product manager. A product manager at Google is a person who works with various functions in the company, whether it's engineering or sales or finance or legal. My primary job is to bring ideas that are circulating in the company into a fully formed product out to folks like yourselves. I focus on advertising products, so you probably have not seen any of the products that I worked on unless you've used our advertising platforms. But there are a lot of people like me who do all kinds of things: Google Search, Google News, Gmail, most of the consumer products that you all may be familiar with. Before Google, I've been in Silicon Valley for about 20 years now, so I have a very myopic view of life, at least professionally. I'm an ex-engineer, electrical engineering undergrad, computer science graduate school, and then business school here at Berkeley. And all my life in these 20 years, I worked in technology-oriented companies. Before Google, I was at a venture capital firm. Prior to that, I started a software company doing online payments. Before that, I spent some time in management consulting at a company called McKinsey, again, helping Silicon Valley companies. And prior to that, I worked in some very large and very small technology companies. So I have a very, very tech-focused view of life, which you should, either you like it or not, so apply your de-biasing algorithms as you like. The second thing I want to say up front is there's really no one way of innovating, right? I think innovation is like climbing Mount Everest. The first time somebody went up there, people thought, well, that was the only way to get up there because other ways had not been discovered. So what I tell you is my opinion. It's how Google does it. But if you start a company or if you want to join another company and you see things differently, that's great. I think that's the beauty of innovation, that innovation never gets old. Despite hearing an entire semester's worth of innovation talks, you guys can invent your own way, which is great. So that's good news. OK, so keep those things in mind as we power through this next few set of slides. And again, my goal here is to share some thoughts. I'm not going to detail any one of them because the idea is to have a dialogue. And as you see something, I will make sure that I touch on these questions you've already asked. But if there's something that I say that you have a follow-up question, raise your hand and we'll get into a dialogue. Okay? So the first thing about Google is that it's a global company. We're a very young company. We're only 10 years old. I was talking to Henry, and Henry pointed out Microsoft is about 35 years old. Cisco is about the same age. IBM is 50 years old, or even maybe longer. So in the world of technology, which itself is a very, very young industry, Google is even younger. So I think that's point one. But we're a very global company. If you look at our corporate mission, the mission it's a very simple mission. It says to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So there are three key words in that mission that we take very seriously. The first is it's the world's information. It's not American information. It's not Chinese information. It's the world's information. And it also doesn't say it's online information. It says information. So that means information in books, information in our voices, information in video, text, all the information. So the charter of the company is to organize all of that information, make it universally accessible. So universal accessibility is a key point. Universal accessibility means two things. One, it means outside. The company got started in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto, but it's to make it available across the world universally. But it also means universal modalities. So it's not just through a computer, but it's through a cell phone or through a telephone or through any other device that is able to process information. It includes information for disabled people who cannot use sight or sound as a way of accessing information, making that available for them as well. So I think it's a very important concept. We take it very seriously. And then the last word of the mission says, make the information useful. So not information for the sake of information, but something that you can use. And if you can't use it, we didn't really do our job. So those are very three key things that we take seriously and sort of form the pillar of everything we do. And if you look at all of the Google products, which are many, see lots of pictures here. If you think about it for a minute, all of them boil down to the mission statement and the three words. And so each of these products here is trying to solve one or more of these three words. Either they're organizing information, they're making it universally accessible, and making it useful. So Gmail, for example, is really a search product, but it tries to apply search to the problem of communication, right, as opposed to just retrieving information in documents. Google Voice is another product which is based on essentially search, but it's applying search on our verbal messages. So key point, it's a global company, it's a universal mission, we take it seriously, and we have people all over the world. So we have engineers and product managers and salespeople in all these countries, and I think more than 40 countries at this point. So how do you keep innovation alive and kicking across the world at the same time? Okay, so I think that's a question that's important. We talked about, we start with the mission. I think it all comes down to that. And I think mission is very important to the extent that you've had work experiences before coming to school, or if you're starting your own company right now. I think you recognize that the one sort of glue that binds everybody together in a company with opinionated people is a belief in a core mission. If the mission is widely shared, then I think you can sort of go forward and prosper while still having different opinions about how you implement that vision. So you do need a common sort of purpose to bind smart individual people together. Okay, and we have that. So how do we innovate globally? It all starts with people, because it's a people company. We're a software services company. We still haven't solved the problem entirely of having computers write all of our software by themselves. So we have human beings in the company, people like me, and we look to hire the best human beings possible anywhere in the world. So if you have gone through a Google recruiting process, or if you have friends who have gone through that, you'll hear a lot about how intense that process is. It's supposed to be a fun process. We try to make it interactive and fun and engaging, but it is a very meticulous effort within the company where we put we say internally our number one priority is to hire people, right? That's job number one at Google. And we take it very seriously. So seriously that every hiring packet actually goes all the way up to Larry Page, who's the co-founder of the company, and he looks at the package himself, even now with a 22,000 employee workforce. So it sort of speaks to the importance of the hiring criteria. We talked about the fact that it's global, so we have offices, and again, in more than 40 countries. We have this concept of 20% time. How many of you have heard about a 20% time at Google? Okay. So any guesses as to how that concept came about and what it's used for? Make a guess. You can't be wrong. Yes?
Well, I know it's used for employees to focus on their energy 20% of the time on their own personal projects.
Okay.
I don't know how it came about.
Okay. So that's exactly right. So let's talk about how it came about. So let's do a little exercise here. So I need 2 volunteers. Somebody. Okay. So let's pick you and person next to you. So let's say you guys go out and start a company today. Okay. So you started a company, and let's say it becomes really successful. Okay. I don't know. You're making widget X, and everybody loves widget X. You're very, very successful, both financially and otherwise. And now you work at the same company. You're a new employee, and you have an idea for widget Y. Okay, it's different than widget X. So you have this brilliant idea. You think we should invest in this your idea. So let's say you report to this gentleman here. You started the company, and you go to him and you say, "Well, I want to invest in widget Y, or I have a great idea." Okay. So what's your response to her? What would typically a manager say to an employee who comes back and says, "Widget X is very successful, so you're doing really great." What's your response to her?
Focus on what the company's
focus on what you're doing. We're very successful. How many engineers do you have? Never enough. You have never. It doesn't matter how many engineers you have. The answer is it's not enough, right? You can never have enough engineers, right? Berkeley can't produce number of engineers fast enough for all these companies to absorb them, right? We're trying. And I focus on engineers because, engineers, in technology companies, what's the biggest asset? It's the engineer, right? So you will never have enough engineers. So the answer to you is going to be, well, you go to your manager, it's like, well, no, we don't have enough engineers. Okay? So successful large companies, you've heard about all these ways of describing this dilemma, innovator's dilemma, crossing the chasm, doesn't matter what phrase you use. The idea is that when you become really successful doing what you started off doing, it's very, very hard to invest in something else, right? If you were a failure, if widget X was a failure, this would not be a problem because you would readily agree, let's try something else. It's when you're successful, that's when the challenge comes in. Okay, so let's say now you work at Google, and you are an engineer, and you are his manager. So instead of she going to you, she goes to him. And she says, hey, I have this idea. We should make widget Y. Okay? Now at Google, you have the liberty of taking 20% of your time, 1 day a week, to either do what she says or not. You don't have to go to your boss. You can just say, yeah, I want to either do it, or you can say no, you don't have to do it. Okay? And if you say no, she's going to go to the next person and the next person and the next person. There's an internal marketplace of ideas. Exactly how a company gets started in Silicon Valley, right? What happens when you have an idea here? Today, if you have an idea, what you do? You talk to your person next to you, the next to them. Eventually, you're going to find somebody who's going to say, yes, I want to do this. Or if you're smart, you'll say, you know what? A lot of people have said no. Or in fact, everybody has said no. Either my idea is not worth it, or I need to modify it or morph it, or I'm going to do it alone on my own. I'm going to learn how to do coding, and I'm going to do it myself. And you may be right. Okay? But it's exactly what happens in the external ecosystem, and we try to replicate that internally. So this 20% concept is a very, very important concept because it's the place where innovation starts, and it starts without management input. Yes, question?
But how do you maintain the focus of like that? So like people will be like, it's a marketplace of ideas, I want to do that, and
Yeah.
not my job. Like how do you?
Well, so I think it's kind of self-enforcing, right? Because how many 20% ideas can you as an engineer do at a time? One, right? Because you still have your other objectives. It's not like you're not, you have your quarterly objectives, and we'll talk about that. It's a very, very metrics-driven company. I mean, you still have your widget X that's performing really well, and you're always short-staffed. And now you may decide that, you will tell your manager, hey, look, I've chosen to allocate 20% of my time. But it's only 20%. It's not 40%. So it's not like we expect you to work overnight or on weekends, but we're saying 1 day a week you can do this. We're not saying you can do 2 days a week. So there's a limit to the actual number of resources we have, right? So at best, at any given time, every engineer is doing a 20% project, but we don't have that many engineers. And engineers are smart, right? I mean, they're going to only invest. Again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will invest because it's your time now, judiciously, right? It's not that your manager came and told you to do this. So if it fails, it's not, or if it doesn't work out, you can't blame anybody else. Like you made the choice. And after a while, there's an internal reputation in the marketplace, right? What kind of projects did you choose? Did you apply judgment? Did you apply? Why did it not work? If you've done it 3 times and it doesn't work, what's going on? It's a very interesting concept. Now, when I realized it, it's like you come to Google, you hear about this concept. It's like, well, why is it? Why are we having this concept? And you realize, well, this is a very powerful way of keeping yourself agile and always sort of thinking about the next thing. There's a question on the floor. Yes.
Yes. Could you explain whether this also translates into longer working hours in general, because people still have the same amount of work to get done?
Yeah. So I think so the question is, does this translate into longer working hours? That's not the intent. This is why you're supposed to allocate 20% of your work time. So here you actually do say, I'm taking a day a week to work on this project. So it's not like day on a weekend. Do you work longer hours? I think that happens in general, depending on the project. There are times during a project when you work long hours, but that's not I don't think that can be attributed to this phenomenon here. And then when the project is done, you don't work as long. So I think it's kind of software engineering. You balance out your own time. Yes, question here.
Can you quantify the benefit that this 20% policy has brought Google? Like how many projects were really invested in?
Yeah. So I have 3 examples here, which are, I think, at least 2 of them are well known. Google News, Google Suggest, which you see every time you go to google.com and you try to search a query, and then Google Translate on the iPhone, which is one of the more recent 20% projects. So these are all projects that got started when some engineer said, I want to spend 20% of my time doing this. And then they did a proof of concept, and they got internal use cases. So for example, the other thing we do besides 20% is we have this concept of dog food. Dog food is, you heard this concept, eat your own dog food before you give it to somebody else. What does that mean? If you have a product, use it first yourself as an engineer, as a product manager, as an employee, and then if it works internally, you send it out to other people. So we're now a big enough company. We kind of always were a big enough company that if you got the engineer to agree, and you did a proof of concept, you can try it out. At least the 2 of you should start using the product, and then get your colleagues to use it, and then eventually you get to 100, 200 people internally. People use it. You have enough data to say, is this working or not, and then you scale from there. Yes.
Are you concerned that the dog fooding practice might lead to sort of insular priorities in terms of what products work and what don't, and that you end up building products for Silicon Valley software engineers and less so for people in the Midwest or working countries?
Yeah, so I think the question that's being asked, if I may paraphrase it, is that do you have a risk here that if you dog food it internally with people like yourself, do you only build a product for quote unquote power users? Or Silicon Valley users, as you said, and not for the masses? It's a very important question. Let's hold on to that thought. I'll come back to that in a minute. But it's a very important question. Yes.
Can you give us an idea about how many projects you don't accept? First stage of the project that succeed and the ones that don't?
I don't have a good idea because a lot of this discussion happens sort of within individuals. So it's not like there is a management committee that sits and says 20% projects came in, we reject them. She is going to her colleague and having that discussion at lunch or in a meeting, so a lot of these ideas get killed, but there's no visibility above that conversation. That just so it's like a very sort of a leaf node activity. It doesn't happen at the root node level.
So at the end of the year, I can come up with no ideas if I'm the Google engineer.
Yeah, you don't have. It's not like you have to come up with ideas. Yeah, I mean, you're always assigned when you get hired. You're assigned to a project, so you can just work on that project. This is if you have an idea that you want to start your own, then you have the luxury of not asking your manager. Yes.
Like, do you keep information of projects that got killed? Do you keep like information on that or on the persons that worked?
Short answer is yes.
Yeah, okay. So do people like have a wiki or something that you look up?
That's right. There's all kinds of wikis or blogs. I mean, the tool, there are all types of tools internally. People use wikis or blogs, up to them. But yes, we do keep information on failed projects, and that's an important point. We'll come back to that because I think what you're pointing out is that we don't think of projects failing. We think of morphing them because every project has something good that came out of it that you can learn from and apply to the next one. So, but that's an important point. Yes.
How are the employees compensated when their 20% idea becomes fruitful and become a real service?
Yeah, so hold on. Good point. Let's come back to compensation. I want to capture that. That's a very important topic. The short answer, again, I'll give you a short answer. We'll come back to it in detail, is that we try to mimic, again, the external ecosystem that you typically find in high tech, so there is a concept of an internal liquidity event, quote unquote. It doesn't look like an external liquidity event, but it looks pretty much like it. So there are various levels of compensation. The entire company does, I mean, just like any technology company, you have salary and stock options. We also have true profit sharing for every employee. So the profit is shared based on the company's performance, your team's performance, and your individual performance. So there's sort of multiple multipliers, if you will. And at the end of the year, the company distributes profits. So everybody's got a vested interest in making the company successful. And then if you succeed, and since I started talking about it, let me finish the thought. If you take a project from sort of 20% or seed stage to something very, very big, Gmail, for example, was an idea that started very small, became really big. Chrome is a recent example. Then you get sort of what's called a Founders Award at Google, which is like sort of your internal liquidity event, if you will, which is over and beyond what you would expect as a bonus. Yes.
Do you think there's any downside effect of the kind of system, and do you think that can be applied to different industries other than software industry?
So I want to say in general, there must be a downside, right? I mean, most good things have a downside. I don't know specifically what the downside would be here, but I do think that a lot of the things that Google is doing I think are only possible right now for internet-based companies, and I'll talk about why. I used to work in non-internet companies before in technology, in sort of where you needed retail distribution or partnerships to get access to your products, to your customers, and it's a very different model. So let's come back to that just in a minute. So internet versus not internet, because I think that is key. Yes.
So in the spirit of open innovation, have you ever have any kind of a process, or did you have an occasion that you identified attractive ideas, but you find it doesn't fit with Google, so you kind of encourage them to go out and build their business, or you, as a company, systematically find some kind of external entity to work on those ideas together?
I have a great example of that, so I'll hold on to that as well. So the answer is yes, we have done that in several places, because we're not in the business of doing everything. In some ways, we're very focused, right? So we're not in the oil drilling business, or we're not in the healthcare business per se. We are into the information business about healthcare, but we're not into healthcare, providing healthcare. And we have tried to encourage initiatives outside of Google that are in those areas, in energy, in education, in healthcare. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so 20%. Yes, one last question on this, and then we'll move on.
One last thing. How do you fund the prototypes coming out of the 20% concept? Do you have an innovation fund for it?
Yeah, so no, it's the funding is the same as any other project. So let's say she went to the engineer and he agreed to work with her, and so let's say they spend the next 2 weeks doing a proof of concept, and when the proof of concept comes up, you now have two choices. Let's say you guys like what you did and you want to make it bigger, then you go to a forum, which is like our internal venture capital partnership forum. Okay, so every week, the founders and the CEO, Larry, Sergey, Eric Schmidt, Eric is the CEO of the company, Larry and Sergey are the founders of the company, they meet with all of these teams, and you can approach them. You don't have to talk to your manager. You say, well, I have an idea, I've already tested it, here are the metrics from my test. So you have some data because you have usage data, right? And it's easier to do that in an internet company than in a non-internet company. I'll talk about that in a minute. So you go there and say, okay, now I want to scale this. I've already tested this with 10 users. They either love it or hate it. If they hate it, here's what they hate about it. I have an improvement idea, and I need 2 more engineers. Okay, so you go with your ask, and you either get it or not. So, and then you iterate, and then you get to 10,000 users, and 1 million users, and 1 billion users, and so on and so forth. Okay, so 20% time is important, but innovation is a team sport at Google. So it doesn't mean that this is not a place where you come and say, no, I have an idea, and it's my idea or nobody's idea, and it's like, it's my way or the highway. It's not how the company works. It's a very collegial company, and by design so. So the reason why we want you to talk to your fellow engineers and get his or her buy-in is because we want to make sure that you can work with other people, and that at the end of the day you are creating a team, not just an individual. So this is not like this is not a mercenary company, right? And it's a different culture, and that's important because it is that collegiality and the respect for everybody's opinion, and even if you disagree with somebody, offering the dissent in a constructive way is very, very key to bringing great talent in, and then making that talent work together as a team. Okay, because we don't think that most great things can happen without a great team behind it. Sharing everything you can. So I think this talks about some of these things you brought up. So we share everything. We have an internal, we're a search company, right? So everything in the company is searchable. So we have all kinds of stuff inside the company, and everything is put up on the on the internet. So we have project descriptions, my performance record for the last 6.5 years, and if you work at Google, your performance record, all of that stuff is available internally. Okay? And every week, people submit, we have a massive project database. Every project in the company is in the database. Okay? And every engineer and every product manager is associated with at least one project. Otherwise, you shouldn't be there, right? So when you join the company, you align yourself with the project. And you post weekly updates. You provide a status update on what you did. All of that is searchable. So we have 22,000 employees, but if you give me a name of a person, I can enter their name, and I'll see the project they're working on. And if that project died, let's say they worked on the project 3 years ago. Let's say the project got canceled. That's fine. All of the project information, their definition, their business plan, their product requirements document, the engineering schedule, the user feedback, all of the internal deliberations of reviews that happen, it's all archived there. And typically what happens when a project fails, and so let's talk about how does a project fail? When do you say, oh, something has failed? Well, something has failed when you continuously miss the objectives that you have set for yourself, right? So just like any other company, you say, well, in 6 months, I expect to launch this product and have at least 1,000 users use it. Or in 6 months, I want to launch this product and get $1 million in revenue. Or in 6 months, I want to go and launch this product in 3 additional countries. There are many, many ways you can define your objectives. But they all have to be measurable objectives. And if you measure yourself at the end of every quarter and you figure out that you're falling short, again, in a marketplace where you have a great opportunity cost, I mean, why would you want to keep working on a project that's consistently failing when you can do something else? There's a self-selection. People say, well, you know what, I've tried this. It's not working. I'm going to go do something else. We take that idea. So when project fails, people basically abandon the project, right? That's how the project usually fails. There's a lot of code. So we basically have a single code system. So all of that code. So let's say you were building Widget X, and Widget X involved incorporating search into an email system. And for some reason it failed. Well, there's a lot of code that you can take and apply to another idea that's similar. Perhaps you build a partnership with another company. Maybe that partnership can be used for a different business. So it's almost never the case that the entire project is useless. It just doesn't happen that way. Yes, you had a question?
Yeah. So I guess with the sharing of information, everything is so open within the walls of Google. I mean, it's kind of a two-part question. I guess one, do you find that there's a lot of sort of invasion of privacy type of things happening? Like, for example, if I Googled and found your performance review between you and your boss, I mean, should I be seeing that? Should I be reading about that?
Are you a Google employee or are you not a Google employee?
I'm a Google employee.
Okay. Yeah.
Second, I guess, do you find that there's a lot of sort of information released out into the press, out into the media about what's happening at Google, and then do you find that eventually affecting your stock price? I mean, people then assume like, okay, I've heard this is going on at Google, and now the stock market wants to see that product happen.
Yeah. So I think there are two questions there. One is, should employees internally at Google see each of those, for example, performance review and things like that? So let's talk about that. So first of all, let's talk about how performance reviews happen at Google. So let's say you and I are working at Google. The way my performance gets reviewed is not by my manager, it's by you. So you and I will write reviews about each other every quarter, small ones, and then the longer ones every 6 months. And that'll happen with everybody else who's working on projects with me. So all that my manager does really is look at that review and either agree or disagree or put his or her own opinion. So if you see my performance review, there should not be any surprise there anyways because you wrote it.
What if it's somebody outside that group that you weren't necessarily working with?
Then you wouldn't write a review for them.
Well, sure, but I mean, can somebody outside your group working on completely
Yeah.
different projects
Yeah.
do your review?
Why not? So that's how the company works. And the second thing is the way people get promoted. So typically, how do you get promoted? Well, your manager says you're up for promotion. No, in Google, it's more like an academia. You apply for promotion, and you recommend some peers who are willing to write you a recommendation letter. And then your packet goes to a promotion committee, not to your manager, to a promotion committee who does not include your manager. And then they look at your packet and say, well, what do you think? What do people say? Is he ready or not? So that's point one. Number two, kind of shocking, but it actually works. Number two is, how does it impact the company outside? Now, so we don't, if there's a leak inside, if there's a leak and sort of sensitive internal information, like my review leaked and somehow the stock moved, I don't think that could happen, but let's say it did. I mean, that's a leak, and it has to be dealt with. So we have very clear policies about leaking corporate information. You get fired. So don't leak. We are very trustworthy internally. We share everything, including our board meeting presentations. Eric stands up every quarter and shares the entire board meeting presentation with the entire company. So, but it hasn't leaked yet, and I think the employees feel that they're trusted, and that's why they're overly invested in keeping that information within the four walls of the company. So I think leaks are different. Leaks are just malicious leaks, and they should be, and we treat them accordingly. Other than that, we don't worry about how the market changes the stock price. We don't think we can control the stock price, and that's not our primary purpose. We focus on the users and our products, and just doing a good job at that. And the stock market is the stock market. I don't know what anybody can do about that. Yes.
What is the typical way of how the project scales up and how the products are launched?
So there's no typical way. The typical way is, again, we launch products every 2 weeks. So typically, every product will have a release cycle of every 2 weeks. Okay, so there's not a big bang launch. Like you don't work for 6 months and then do a big release. Again, the internet. So let's actually talk about. I think the internet is an interesting ecosystem in that regards compared to other software companies, right? Because two things happened when the internet came along. One is it became really easy to launch products because you don't have to go and secure shelf space at a retailer like CompUSA or Radio Shack and say, I'm going to ship a product at the end of the holiday season. Please allocate, an entire aisle for my product. And they'll say, well, if you're going to ask me to do that, I need some upfront payment from you because how do I know that your product's going to be, people are going to buy the product off the shelf? So all of that discussion became moot, right? Because on the internet, you have a website. So you put your product on the website, people use it or not, the opportunity cost of shelf space is zero. You have infinite shelf space. And then secondly, internet allows you to get feedback from your users very quickly, instantaneously almost, right? So you don't have to wait for iterations for months. I mean, typically in consumer packaged goods, if you launch a product, hits the shelf, people take it home, use it, then you have to do a survey of them to see, did you like the product? You have to fill out a card. By the time all of that happens, it's 6 months to a year. The internet, the next day you have 1 million people who have clicked or not clicked or used the product in a certain way. You can measure it. So you can iterate literally the next day. So our product cycles are very short. Every 2 weeks we ship something. So I think that's how it scales. And again, if it's a successful product, you need more resources. You make your case using data. If not, then you don't get it. Yes?
I just want to follow up on Brian's point. This share everything you can. I can understand that within maybe a US context. How does that vary, like with different cultural regulatory norms? I'm thinking Europe, like data protection and stuff.
Right. So this is sharing internally in the companies, right? So let's be clear. So this is within the Google firewalls. We share everything, and we have offices in 40 countries. So an employee sitting in the UK or Portugal or Beijing has the same access to the information that I have sitting here in the US. Okay.
Being a Brit, that doesn't quite compute. I mean, given how confidential. I mean, I used to work in a corporate setting.
Yeah.
And I mean, even my peers
Yeah.
not knowing
Yeah.
what the performance was, salary, anything. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just,
things are changing. Even in the UK, I actually know a lot of companies in the UK that, I mean, I think the internet does, was it an internet company? Okay, so I think different. I mean, I think there you have client confidentiality issues. That's a different point. So I used to work in McKinsey. Well, the team that is working on client A and has client A's confidential proprietary information, you're not going to share that with team B that is working perhaps with a competitor. So that's a different segment. Don't get us wrong. So there is nothing here. So if you're a Gmail, let's be very clear. If you and I are Google employees, you can see my information, my performance information, my project information, an email or PRD that I wrote. But I also happen to be a Gmail user outside of Google. You're not going to see my Gmail emails. Okay, we protect the consumer's data very precisely with encryption and absolute, restrictions around who can and cannot have access to the data. Those are very different things. I mean, let's not confuse. This is not sharing users' data. This is sharing internal internet data.
From a cultural perspective,
yes.
Those who aren't like Generation Y or millennials or whatever they're called, sharing, and particularly from culture outside the US, sharing information about yourself with others, even if they're close friends, is not a norm. And I'm wondering is that something that Google imposes, this kind of openness on people and through contracts? Or I'm struggling with it because it would be a very big barrier.
Yeah. Well, so I'm 40, so I'm not Generation Y. I wasn't forced to do it, and it's not. It's the culture of the company that came from within. And I think again, if you're in the system where you are giving each other continuous feedback, and that feedback is just recorded, I think there isn't anything unnatural about it, if you will. And I think high-performing teams in general are always giving each other feedback anyways to how to get better. I mean, that's part of high-performing teams' cultures. Okay, so we're talking about the internet, which I think addresses some of these things. The idea that you can ship things every 2 weeks, the idea that you get feedback from your users overnight, makes things very, very easy. And it actually leads into the next point. Actually, let me skip a point, which is this, and we'll come back to the other two, which is that you can actually use data to have debates, right? So typically, again, sometimes what kills innovation is that you have an idea and the other person doesn't believe in it. Why does that happen? People sometimes ascribe it to be like the politics. It's not really politics. It's that there is information asymmetry, right? So I think 9 out of 10 times, when somebody says, "Well, this is just a political environment," I think that's a lazy answer. Ascribing something to politics is a lazy answer because what really might be going on is that there's just information asymmetry between those two people. You know something that the other person doesn't, or neither of you know because there's no data, and you're trying to make a guess on a future event, and you just have different opinions about that future, right? Based on your sensitivity about risk and outcomes. So it's a betting game in a way. And so how do you resolve that conflict? Okay, you have an idea, and this happens in a variety of interactions. You have an entrepreneur, you go to a VC. You are a employee trying to convince your fellow employee. You're a child convincing a parent. This information asymmetry happens a lot. So how do you deal with that? So I think there are two ways that internet makes it easy. One is that the internet allows you to experiment. And the cost of experimentation is fairly low in an internet company. So instead of arguing, just do the prototype. So you have a concept, you can't agree, do a proof of concept. Okay, which is what? An engineer allocating 20% of the time, writing a few lines of code, testing it out. When you have tests, you have data. Engineers know this. You guys do this a lot in lab, right? That's why labs are full of experiments, whether it's chemical engineering, or electrical engineering, or mechanical engineering. Typically, in consumer product goods, if you're a Procter & Gamble, the cost of experiment is very high. How do you get 100 people to test your product? Well, you got to put it on somebody's shelf. You got to pay somebody. And you got to go find it. So that's very high. Internet lowers the barrier. Okay, so most of the debates just go away because you can say, you know what, we tested it. Here's the data. Okay, great. Yes?
I think there's another point, though, that in many companies, information is a source of power.
Yes, yes.
If you hoard information and you have information that others don't have, particularly if you are in quote-unquote senior management, you see a lot of information in most companies that most of the company doesn't see. So what sounds like a very data-driven, apolitical philosophy has some seemingly radical consequences for overturning the information hoarding logic that often accompanies management and hierarchy in a lot of companies.
That's a great point. So I think that's a great point. And I think this idea that, again, open access to all information is very empowering. And it kind of, in some ways, it disempowers management. Because typically, what does management do? Management hoards information, and so I know, and hence I can decide better than you can. I think that creates a very bad dynamic over time. Most of the innovation at Google happens at the bottom, because the people at the bottom, meaning the person who just started, has the same information that I have, or that the CEO has. So then it actually raises the question, and this is slightly off topic, what's the role of a manager at Google? And why do we have managers? What do people like me who essentially waste a seat? And the answer is, A, we don't have that many people like me. That's the good news. And B, the manager's role at Google is literally a mentor's role. It's not that I'm micromanaging projects or making decisions about projects, because those things don't have to be done. Data will sort of make decision itself. My job is kind of like what I'm doing here. My job is to help share my ideas and thoughts about how do you go about innovating, and some of my experiences working with engineers or salespeople, or if there's a complex negotiation going on, places where experience can help. Data itself is not enough. That's where I add value, or try to add value. And if I'm not adding value, I'll find out at the end of the quarter, because somebody will tell me that, and then I'll move on, I'll do something else. So the role of management is more like coach, mentor, advisor, or whatever word you want to use. Okay? The other thing that we, whoops. There we go. The second part of how do we resolve debates is that let's just assume that two people are sitting at a table at the company, and they have done everything that I've said, and they still cannot agree. Okay, they're like, how do we move forward? So there's a tiebreaker. Okay, and the tiebreaker is users. We say, does this help the end user, as opposed to does this help the advertiser or any other stakeholder, the shareholder or the employee? Does this help the end user? The end user being people like you and I who are users of Google products. And that's a tiebreaker. Anything, and so if it helps the end user, we do it. If it doesn't, we don't do it. Sounds kind of very sort of motherhood and apple pie thing, but it's a very clear guideline that helps provide tremendous clarity when you're in this, what seem at the time like life and death debates, which they never are, but they seem that way. Yes.
When you talk about making decisions on the basis of data, I wonder, is it possible that you lead to a bias toward preferring the qualities that are easier to measure and easier to quantify, and maybe placing less emphasis on more intangible but still valuable things to try to pursue?
What would be an example of that?
Well, I mean, one that comes to mind is, suppose you're looking at search results and you want to see, two different algorithms, which one produces better search results.
Yes.
One way to judge betterness would be to say, okay, you measure frequency of mouse clicks, or you measure, the likelihood they need to go to see the next stated result, and so on. It's very easy to measure.
Yes.
And then maybe a harder way to measure user satisfaction might be, you do a focus group. And you
Yes.
talk to people and you ask them what their feelings are.
That's right. That's right.
So I just wonder if maybe a culture that's organized around a preference for empirical data and, this idea that maybe the data is objective. And,
Great. Yeah.
You might prefer, the first kind of analysis over the second.
Good question, but I think it's an easier question than where I thought you were going. So I think you're saying, well, there are two types of data. There is the quantitative, computer measured data, numerical data, and there is this what we call certificate soft or perceptive or sort of, user input data, human data. Again, data is, so we love all data. So what we do, besides doing data collection using clicks and computer rankings, we also do human evals, what we call human evaluation. So we have, we survey people and we bring them in and we ask them questions. So when we look at quality of search rankings, it's the computer, but also the human perception. So no, I think we're at least conscious that there is that element of getting too focused on just the numerical element and not the subjective element. So I think we try to do that. But I think the other point of your question, which is that, yeah, I mean, if you just get focused on data, how do you ever make a decision in absence of data? And are there sort of inherent biases in that? And I think there are biases in there, right? I mean, without a question. I mean, so again, I think every methodology has its own biases. This is the one we have chosen. I think it works for us now. Companies are like people. I mean, I'm a new dad, and I've been learning from parents who come before me. But I think human beings, as they grow, their needs adapt, and I think the solutions have to adapt to that too. So I think what we're doing at Google in our 10th year may not work for us in our 20th year. And I hope that we are innovating as a company as well, not just in our products, right? Let me also address. I'll get back to you in a minute. But what you also asked earlier, the question about the Silicon Valley power user. And we're on the user topic, so let's talk about that. So you asked a question, does Google have this tendency that if we use our dog fooding and show our product to people like ourselves, do we only end up designing for the sort of this power user? Okay, everybody understand what a power user is versus a sort of the general user? And the answer is yes. We actually that's intentional. So we actually use our product management strategies to actually design for the power user first. Why? Any guesses why? Yes?
Perhaps they are the first people to use these new products.
So they're the first people to use typically these products. So if you want feedback, they're the first ones to give you. So you should do that. Anything else? Any other reason? Yes?
They'll be more critical than the average user. They'll be able to spot faults.
They're more critical. They'll honestly tell you what's wrong with the product. Anything else? Those are both very good suggestions. Yes? They'll be more opinionated. They'll tell everybody else. Exactly right. That usually they're power users because they're influential. They're influential within their friends and family, within the community we're going after. So they're kind of like market makers, if you will, right? And they can either make or break you, but they are the power users. There's one other reason. These are all very good ones. There's one very important one. Okay, so who themselves here considers pick a product? Who is a power user of a product? Like just raise your hand and name the product that you're a power user of. Come on. Anybody uses mobile phones, email, cars, bicycles? Yes? iPhone. Your power user iPhone. How many times do you use the iPhone?
In a day.
In an hour. Pick a unit.
Probably like
20 times. Okay? Who is not a power user of iPhone? Okay. How many times an hour do you use an iPhone?
I don't have one.
You don't have one. Okay, so you don't even have one. But who has an iPhone who's not a power user? Okay, anybody who uses iPhone less than 20 times an hour is not a power user by definition. Power users use the product a lot more than anybody else. Okay, so it's not users only, it's usage. It's usage. That's what you want. You want usage of the product. Having 100 million users is not useful. Having 100 users who use it 1 billion times is a lot more useful. Right? Very important point. Make sense? Okay. Speed matters. We talked about this. Why does speed matter? Well, speed matters because it's the internet. Everything moves at light speed. The electrons move back and forth. You don't have to put a product on shelf space. You don't have a consignment coming up from overseas. Everything happens quickly. And if you don't move fast enough, you're going to be left behind. Because users are not going to wait. They're impatient. They use iPhone 20 times an hour. can't make your users wait. So you got to move fast. And there's an important point: innovation, not perfection, right? We use the label beta, which is very controversial. Gmail is always in beta. It actually finally came out of beta a few quarters ago, but it was in beta for like 5 years. Why is it in beta? Okay, why is that? Does that mean that the product is not ready for prime time? Is it buggy? So internally, what we say is that here's how we use the word or the label beta, at least internally. We say, look, our job is to put out products that are high-quality products. In fact, we put them out for power users first. So if it's a really crappy product, let's say, you're going to hear about it very quickly, and people are not going to use it, period. It's okay, it's game over. But Gmail has been very popular. People use it. I use it. A lot of people in this room, I think, would probably use it. So it's a popular product. So it's not that it's not ready for prime time. In fact, it's available in many, many countries at scale. Yes, it has uptime issues as they've happened lately, but it's a fully scalable product. The reason why it had the label beta on is that because we felt that it was not a perfect product, that there were lots of things with email that we need to do and we still need to do. And until we could perfect it, we didn't think it was appropriate to not call it beta, because it's always in beta. It's not a perfect product, right? So this is like this kind of academic, comical debate, but in some ways it's a real debate. If you say, there's like if you go to the Gmail product managers and they say, why don't you take the name beta of the product? They're like, look, I have like a list of 1,000 things I want to do because users want all these things, and we haven't done it. So when we do all of those things, we'll take the label off. Okay, so that's one interpretation of beta. But again, the culture is let's do things quickly, learn, and iterate. This is another important thing. So I think it's probably the most important when you start a company, which is people always say, well, I don't have enough resources. And that's a problem. I've personally started a company, and I've been at Google, and it's in the early days. And I think in hindsight, I would say that resource constraint is actually the biggest gift that you can ever get. It's kind of the same phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, these are all two ways of saying the same thing. When you're resource constrained, your brain will do amazing things to solve that constraint. And innovation and productivity and ingenuity will just spur it out. And that's really what you want. You do not want too many resources early on. We talked about this, don't kill projects, morph them. I was going to quickly get into some simple examples of how we have done open innovation, where we have shared, and I want to make sure that I go through the list just very quickly. So I think we have this, again, we just kind of like open source. I mean, we benefited from the open source community. We use Linux. We have a dedicated initiative to give back. So a lot of the code that we are now building in our products, we put it on the web. We have a site called code.google.com. You can search it up, and most of our code is now migrating to that site, so other people can use it. Android is the cell phone software that we have announced, and I think some of you may be using that phone. But it's all open source. Anybody can take that software stack, put it on their phone, modify it. Chrome is another example. It's a browser. It's totally open source. You can use it, and including our competitors, they can modify it. And this is the last one I want to talk about, which I think talks about, somebody else said earlier, what about projects that don't fit within Google? What do we do with those ideas that come from us? So this is actually a contest that's going on right now. You guys can all go. It's called Project 10 to the 100. So Google came from Google, which is the 10 to the power 100 number, and sort of kind of a wordplay there. But the idea is that we're using it's sort of the innovation by the masses and sort of using the wisdom of crowds concept. If you go to this site, it's been running for close to a year now, and the final vote is coming up on October 8th. So all of you should chime in with your voices. But the idea is that people from all over the world submitted ideas, and there were ideas around these categories: okay, community, opportunity, energy, environment, health, education, shelter, and everything else. And these are not ideas that fall within the Google umbrella. This is not a Gmail product or a search product. But these are ideas that can either be, they're all obviously ideas that would help a lot of people. So I think that's one. But they could also be accelerated through the use of computing infrastructure or the internet in general. And we would like to promote those things. So this is, and a lot of these ideas came from Google employees as well. And we're not putting our resources on it, but we're enabling the use of our infrastructure and on the internet in general. And again, it's voted by all of you out there. And I think this is an example of how we're trying to encourage sort of open innovation in the broadest possible sense. Okay. Let me take a quick run through this list and make sure we cover those. And then if we have time, we can take additional questions. Yeah. So I think we talked about the internet. Let's come back to compensation in a minute. Solar companies. I don't know that we have invested in a solar company. I don't know if we have or have not, so I won't comment on it. Sorry, can't answer that. In general, I know that we have an initiative around energy where we're put forward a challenge that says we'll like to make the cost of renewable energy less than or equal to the cost of coal. So we have this slogan called RE less than equal to C. RE stands for renewable energy, and we want to make sure that on a kilowatt-hour basis, the world gets to a point where it's cheaper than using energy from coal. Coal is the cheapest today, but it has a lot of negative side effects. So we do have an interest in promoting those kind of technologies. Google Wave, yes. So Google Wave is so I think we answered this. Google Wave is this project which was launched or announced about 3-4 months ago, and it came out of a team in Sydney, Australia. The same team had initially done the Google Maps product that you all probably may have seen or maybe using it. And it was just the same thing we talked about earlier. Our team came together and said we have an idea, and that convinced a couple of engineers, and they did a proof of concept, and then off it went. And there was no management layer in the middle that says don't do it because we have other products that are similar or in the same way, like Gmail or Google Talk. But Google Wave is a very innovating, interesting concept that says how can we create, how can we have communication in a very collaborative sense? And I won't spend a lot of time talking about the product. You can go on the web and find out. And I think it's going to be, I think you can sign up. It was open for sort of beta signups a while ago. But again, nothing special about that project in the sense of how it got started. I mean, it got started in a similar way. Business model. So I think our business model is twofold. Most of our money comes from advertising. And then we have a second business model, which is subscription, where we charge enterprises for some of our software services. So we have a business called Google Enterprise, which sells the search appliance and what we call our Google applications, Google Apps, word processing, spreadsheet, hosting, and so that's the second business model. And if you can look up our financials on the SEC site and figure out what each of the model contributes. But more than 90% of the revenue comes from advertising today. Ambidextrous. So you asked about how do we sort of spur innovation and still kind of make money. So we're a for-profit company. We have shareholders. It's not a nonprofit. So all of these ideas have a business plan. I mean, they have some modicum of revenue model or business model up front. So in the end, I mean, they have to justify the use of the Google's resources, whether it's engineering resources or computing resources. They have to pay back. So we're like any other company. I think in some cases our horizon for making that payback might be longer. So, because we're focused on users first, and I think we have, we have a very successful advertising model. We can fund innovation in these other areas. But it's no different than any other company.
So do you have the same innovation initiatives for existing products to continue making them better? Has that the same priority as, for example, new initiatives?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. So there is not a innovation team at Google and a non-innovation team at Google. It's everybody's in the innovation business, and if your product has been around for 5-6 years, yes, you keep innovating, and new guys innovate too. So, yeah, there isn't a corporate directive that says innovate only in this area. Yes, sorry, I didn't get you.
Yeah, my question was about your business plans. You mentioned that for you, helping the end user is the main decision criteria. Yeah. But do you actually also, do you go by NPV if you have to decide between two projects? Sometimes you can't do all of them.
So the question is, we focus on the user. How do we make business planning decisions? Do we use NPV? So to the chagrin of all my MBA colleagues here, We don't do NPV. Now, that's a kind of a black and white statement. Of course, we do NPV at the highest level. But no, when you're a product manager or an engineer and you are asking for resources, it's not. No, we don't do NPV because again, in NPV is what your finance professor or economics professor will not tell you in business school is that NPV only works when you have lots of data. Okay, to build out a 5-year or 20-year financial model, I think that's nonsense for an internet industry because the internet industry itself is like 15 years old. How are you going to get data for the next, at least for the last 15 or the next 15 years? So I think those kind of things don't make sense. What does make sense, again, is that you got to have some assumptions. I mean, you got to have assumptions about usage, like how many users you'll get, how often will they use the product, and if they use the product, how do you then eventually plan to monetize it? Do you have an advertising model? Do you have a subscription model? If you're going to use Google's computers and you need like 10 servers, they have a cost, and we make the cost information very transparent. So every engineer, every product manager knows what is the cost of using one Google server. It's not just some corporate accounting database. It's available publicly. So you can, as an entrepreneur, decide what your costs are, and then how are you going to pay for it. So no, we don't use NPV modeling. Neither do most of the VCs that you'll meet here, at least in the Valley. It's hard to do. Hang on, guys. Let me make sure I go through this. Boundary on openness. I mean, I don't think there is a boundary. I mean, we're trying to do things that are very, very large scale. In general, we want to do things at large scale because I think that's where we can have an impact. I mean, if something doesn't impact, billion users or 100 million users, it's probably not a good use of Google's resources because given the massive investment we have there. Sustainable innovation. Again, I don't have any specific examples. I mean, I think the renewable energy one is probably the closest one that I can cite as a data point where we are actively promoting ideas around there. We have a organization called Google.org, ORG, which is the philanthropic arm of the company, and that the concept there is that foundation is supposed to encourage all kinds of philanthropy activities, in sustainable investment, and companies being one of them. Hang on one second. So we do that. Let's see. Compensation. I think we generally talked about it. You guys have a good idea. So there is you get the usual comp stuff that every tech company gets, and then it's this profit sharing, which not everybody does. Intel does it. Google does it. I think maybe one or two other companies do it. And then there's sort of this founders award concept, which your internal home run. Hang on. And then improving innovation. I mean, I think this is I don't have any specifics here. I mean, again, it's so ingrained in the culture that you do it. I mean, it's not that you do innovation because someday somebody tells you, okay, today is your innovation day. Like, go to innovation. We are in an industry that is innovative. I mean, if you don't innovate, you're going to be left behind. So I think it's so why do we keep innovating every day? I think my answer is it's two. One is we hire. It starts with hiring. I think if for those of you who think of themselves as innovators, I mean, nobody tells you to be innovative. That's how you are wired. So we hire those kind of people, and then they just keep innovating. And the second is there's a little bit of paranoia, right? Because if we don't focus on the user and innovate for users, we're going to be left behind. That's the industry. That's the history of the technology industry, in particular the internet. Okay, let's take some more questions. Yes, you had a question?
Yes. You have presented us a very cohesive model for innovation to serve to new product development. But innovation is more than new product innovation. You can include some other things that are not as self-started as new product.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts? How is Google incentivizing or promoting innovation in business model innovation, organizational structure, and things more sensitive like monetizing trends? You just said that 85% of the revenues come from advertisement. And how do you motivate that kind of innovation that is also critical to the company, especially if you don't calculate the NPV?
Yeah, so I think a couple of questions in there. I mean, first point being there's innovation. Innovation can be applied in more areas than just new product development. Innovation in business models, organization, service industries. Completely agree. I'm not the expert on that. Hopefully, some of the other speakers that you've heard in this course, or you will, and the faculty here can help. I think the one thing we are doing is we are being very open about again, how we're doing things internally. So me coming here, for example, is an example of that. A lot of other people at Google who speak in public forums. One specific thing we did is Procter & Gamble, which is one of the largest consumer product companies. We did a employee exchange program with them where they had some people sit with our teams for 6 months. They just like located to Google offices, sat with us, observed everything we do, and we sent some of our teams to sit with them. And so we did this sort of just symbiotic exchange of employees with the idea that you will learn from each other and understand how the organization is designed to innovate. And there's learning that happens both ways in those areas. In terms of innovation and monetization, I think that's a place, again, we just, sometimes you do things, and if they succeed, then other people, just observe and, maybe take lessons from that. I think, again, we're very open about our advertising products and services and how we do those things.
How do you incentivize that? Because all the models seem to be centered on users.
Yeah.
And it also seems to be centered in self-starting an idea.
Yeah.
And it is not as intuitive to monetize something as it is to create a new product. Because when you create a new product, you base it in your experience of what you need. And sometimes monetizing is not a need inherent in human nature. So how do you promote or come up around the fact that given the industry that you're in, you have to think about monetizing?
Well, monetization may or may not be in human nature, but it is in an employee's nature. So when you're employed at a company, you know that if you're not going to make money for the company, you're not going to get paid, so on and so forth. So I think that incentive in a corporate structure is there. I think what we have said about monetization is that monetization is a lagging. It's very important. Again, we're a for-profit company. We're there to make money. What we have said is that, and I think this is the experience of a lot of entrepreneurs, is that if you put money ahead of the user's interest, you're not going to make money. Because unless you have a successful product, you can't extract value for it. Right? So step number one in your business plan should be offer something of value to somebody else. Right? If he's not going to use his iPhone 20 times a day or 20 times an hour, it doesn't matter if it's free. He's not going to use it.
But if you come up with a product that is very useful,
then you find that's a different problem. But you got to at least have a useful product. Then you figure out how you monetize it. But starting with monetization is almost always a wrong idea. Go ahead.
Regarding openness and innovation, you said there's some people who innovate and people who don't innovate in Google.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a big company, and you would think some people have to dedicate to sales and development.
Yeah.
And so that seems to be more like statistics and quantitative rather than really developing.
Yeah.
What percentage of that? Because I don't think those people would be necessarily innovating anything.
Well, they innovate in business process. So I think the question is, is everybody in the company writing code or innovating in new products? No, that's right. So no, the company has engineers, product managers, salespeople, finance people, accounting people. We don't want innovation in accounting, that's for sure. So yes, there's no innovation going on in Google Accounting, as far as I know. So I don't think there's I don't think that's true at all, because I think, so I'll give you an example. So the finance team actually this year came up with they did an innovation in how we pay for travel, lunch, basically how you do your expense reports, and they completely renovated that process, including building some software internally. So somebody in finance went to an engineer and said, I have an idea of how we can file expense reports and get rid of all paper receipts, okay? And get paid faster. So you submit your expense report, and within a week you have your money, as opposed to waiting for 30 days. That's innovation. So the engineer's like, great, I'll do it, because I have a self-interest. Every time I take a trip, I want to get paid faster. So somebody did it, and it's innovation. Literally, there is not a group in the company that is assigned the innovation charter. Anybody can innovate, and people do. And in fact, there's a kind of a healthy competition, right? Because the finance team then now comes to every Friday we have a beer bash or something. And the finance team comes and puts up their example of innovation, because they always get criticized for being like the numbers guys and book crunchers or whatever, number crunchers. So it's surprising when the culture gets inculcated, amazing things happen. Yeah.
Both on the thoughts of improving innovation, who does Google look to beyond its own company for models of innovation that you regard as things you can learn from And more specifically, when we get to Android versus iPhone, we're going to see a competition there.
Yes.
Between two different models of innovation.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could first, who you look to for examples to learn from yourself from outside the organization, and then your thoughts on this emerging competition between these two different models.
Very good question. So I think let me first say very clear again. I think what I said at the beginning of the talk, we're a very young company, so we're only 10 years old, and what we are doing works for us. Who knows if it will work for other companies, or it'll work for us when we're 20 years old. So we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to improve every day. And I think if you ask people in the company, the feeling there is we have a lot to do, and we're kind of, we need to do fast. So I don't think anybody's resting on the laurels at all. How do we learn? So we actually have a very similar forum as you all have here, which is we have something called a tech talk, a technical talk, except that it's not just technical. And we invite speakers from all over the world, speakers from all walks of life, academia, industry, artists, nonprofit entrepreneurs, VCs, lawyers, anybody who is interesting, who can teach us something. And the Google campus, if you've been here, Mountain View or New York or several other places, looks like a college campus. You come in and you give a talk. And it gets recorded, and it gets, again, put on the internal website. So if you're not able to be at the talk, you can view it online. And that's how we learn. So and every week, 10 or 12 people are coming in and giving tech talks, on a variety of topics, engineering, business modeling, whatever. So I think that's how we learn. We also go out, again, publish papers and get feedback. So I think it's the same thing that other companies do. We do. Android versus iPhone. So I think it's right. So it is different. I mean, the Android model is open source everything, build an app, very large application market. Apple obviously has an application market as well. But I think it is kind of the recreation of the PC versus the Mac model, where I think what Apple has very successfully done over the years is sort of built a very integrated product, hardware, software, services, and create a great user experience. And I think it's worked really well for them. I think in the case of Android, Google's saying the Open Handset Alliance is a way of effecting change, useful change, at the mass market level, starting with the power users, but then using that to open up the ecosystem for mobile users all over the world. And the reason why we are so focused on mobile users all over the world is because if you think about, again, the company's mission, organizing the world's information, if you look at people outside the Western Hemisphere and how they access information, emerging parts of Asia, Africa, somebody mentioned the Economist article on mobile that came out last week. You mentioned Google Wave. Most of the world's population is accessing or is going to access information through their mobile handset, right? Not through a desktop computer or a workstation. So that, I think the Android focus really comes directly from that mission, which is if you scan a book and now you want to make it accessible to everybody, you have to do that through a mobile handset if you want to reach 1 billion users. Because if you only make it available through a computer, it's going to reach only maybe 500 million users. So I think we are definitely going after scale, and I think we're saying the open model addresses scale more effectively than a closed model. The closed model is great for providing a fantastic user experience, but it doesn't scale fast. I think you saw the same thing that happened in the computer workstation industry with Sun, which was try to do a very sort of integrated approach, kind of Apple-like approach, hardware operating system, chip, and then I think it got outtaken by HP, which had a very open approach. Yes?
You said the beauty of a company like yours is that you can gather data really quickly, and take that data, analyze it, and iterate. Has there been any products that Google has invested a significant amount of resources into that have failed, and if so, why?
Yeah, we have several products that have failed. And we have shut down some of those. So we had a product called Google Answers, which is actually one of our earliest products. You would be able to go to Google Answers and type a question, and then the idea was that anybody in the world would sign up to answer your question, and either they would say they'll do it for free or they'll charge you a fee, and it's between you and them to negotiate a fee, and then off you go. And that product didn't take off, and we shut it down, I think, a year ago. We had a product called Frugal, which was actually Google product search. Where you could go and find items to shop, and we shut that down, I think, about a year ago as well. So yeah, there are examples of products like that. Why did we shut these things down, and what did we do afterwards? So I think why we shut down, same thing. These products failed to meet their own stated objectives in terms of usage and the features they want to bring out. So we looked at it objectively, and the teams, again, the teams themselves said, we don't think these products are going anywhere, or they're not meeting our initial expectations. Let's shut them down. What we did in both cases is we morphed them again. So with Frugal, we have a product called Google Product Search now. Right? So Frugal, a lot of that code and technology algorithm went into Google Product Search, and the idea was, we should not have a separate property to do product search. We already have google.com where you search. So if you search for products, you should get product results on the same results page. So we introduced this concept called the Google One Box, I think you guys, or universal search, Google Universal Search, which is how it's known outside, which is if you search now, search for a query, it may have text results, some video results, some image results, and it all comes to you in one sort of well neatly packaged information set, if you will, in the home page. If you search for products like iPod or iPhone or Android, you'll just get the product search results on the front page. So you morph that product. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah. You were talking early on about the innovations throughout your whole company, that anyone can introduce something, work on a project. So, and it also counts for existing projects. But what if no one feels like working on an existing product?
Yeah.
So it stays the same way as it is, but perhaps users want more innovation. So do you, as management, also make teams or steer teams in a certain direction, regardless of the loose projects they undertake from their own initiative?
So are you asking if we have sort of general direction of areas we want to innovate in? Is from the top, or
next to the
the bottoms up? Yeah. I think so. Clearly, we have said as a company that we have interest in three areas, right? Three broad areas: search, advertising, search. We call it search, ads, and apps, and publicly that's how we sort of position it. But it's all the search products, which include search and search within email, search within voice, search within corporate documents. So all of these products that you see are basically search products: search, Gmail, Google Apps, Google Voice. Then we have the ads products, which are catered towards advertisers. And then we have what we call our applications or apps products, so things like Picasa and Blogger and Orkut, Google Earth. So we have, so I guess those are the three buckets, if you will: search, ads, and apps. But I can't think of, within those, it's not, again, it's a fairly bottoms-up process in terms of where we innovate.
But you have the three buckets. You have teams constantly working on those in those areas, constantly working on those applications to make the incremental innovation.
Yeah, that's true with every product. So I think once you launch it, like the Gmail team, they launch a product, and it's not like they launch a product and they go away. They could. They can decide to work on other products. That's fine as well. But typically, again, because the team that launched the product was the one who thought about launching it, they came up with the idea, there's a little bit of allegiance with that product to see its success, and people stay with it and keep innovating. I think we're running out of time, so thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Great questions. And
fantastic. Thank you so much. Next week, Joaquin Henkel from the Technical University in Munich who's going to come and talk to us about systems architectures and the connection and the role of architecture in openness or closed, or how to get more out of individual buildings. Do we have everybody on the attendance sheet? If not, come on over here.